With Emergency Teleport actually being a card that's at 2 now, I think one of the decks that comes to mind is Ritual Beast. So I want to talk about Ritual Beast a little bit because it's just more copies of Kana Hawk. Guys, if you've never seen the combos before, Elder and Kana Hawk equals a penguin, which basically gets you into your Kana Hawk plays. And once you get one in the circulation, you pretty much have a substantial game, to say the least. But at least in this scenario, again, if you've never seen the combos, you can only special summon each of them once a turn. Obviously with Kana Hawk, you banish the penguin, and then from there you tag out that Kana Hawk to then search a Lara and then bring back the penguin and the Elder and put the Kana Hawk into the grave. And then penguin can then banish a card, usually any other card, and matches the type. That's the tamer that you're pretty much dumping into the graveyard. And then from there, the combos are pretty familiar over and over and over and over and over again. You're just tagging out and searching, and then ending on Steez. That's really all you're trying to do with each and every one of these combos. Leo, again, is a quick effect during either player's turn, just to remember, and it is a damage step card in case it ever comes up. But at least for this specific scenario, I feel like ending on the Kana Hawk and the Link each and every time, and then having 4 monsters on the field, Winda being one of them, which is a floater, so don't forget about that. It's definitely a strong board for a rogue deck. I'm not going to say it's that amazing, but it's definitely something that you would kind of have to pay attention to, because, I mean, random rogue decks can't quite do this. I'm not going to say the power level hasn't been crept up on, because this is, I think it's about 7 years old now. But at this point, it's definitely something to consider. Again, the second combo is the same thing. And again, guys, the shifters are just blank cards. I just wanted to show how your hand look when you have a full hand. But in this specific scenario, I want you to kind of envision that your hand is full of Ritual Beasts. This is the only time that you would ever want to end on a board like this, where you end on the big fusion, because it's a negate by getting rid of a Ritual Beast in your hand. That's not going to come up that much, but just in case you just brick, that's definitely the board that you want to end on, because maybe 1 Steeds isn't quite enough. That's just something to think about. It obviously is going to end up coming down to what you want. Again, with Gold Sark, I'm just kind of showing different variations of different stuff in your hand. With WYNN and Gold Sark, it's the same thing with Foolish Burial and Lara, is being able to set up one of the tamers to be able to pull one of the cards back is what you want. So let's say if you're playing Foolish Burial, you definitely want to have it for Lara. If you have Gold Sark, you definitely want it for WYNN. By, you know, it kind of goes hand in hand. Again, the boards are pretty much the same, getting Kana Hawk into play, then getting the Link into play, and then trying to end on the Link and the Fusion each and every time, and then searching out Steeds each and every time. I feel like Ambush isn't a card that you really even need to play. I still play one. I've always kind of enjoyed playing this deck, at least on DB. Never really picked it up in real life, but I've always kind of enjoyed the rogue fun. I love enjoying random rogue decks. But again, it's the same kind of combo, guys, over and over and over again. You're targeting 2 cards, and then you're chaining, taking the Hawk off the field, and then targeting the other 2 cards. And remember that you can only special summon each Ritual Beast and the Tamers and the corresponding Tamers only once per turn. Make sure when you play against a deck that you don't get cheated. You know, I can remember a long time ago, I'm not going to name any names, but I remember a specific player in my locals that would literally try to cheat each and every week with this deck. Not throwing them under the bus. Y'all know what I'm talking about in Kansas City. As far as the combos, though, I feel like each and every time that you go into these combos, you should try to end on Winda, because Winda floats into a card that ignores summoning conditions from anywhere. That's absolutely insane. So I feel like that's definitely something you got to pay attention to. The reason why I'm doing this profile, obviously with the 2 emergency teleports now, they equal more tamers, which means more copies, and you don't necessarily have to open the Elder all the time. You just want to be able to open up one of the tamers, and if you have a beast, you pretty much have full combo. So emergency teleport is just more copies of full combo. The same thing with the WYNN, the Charmer. There's just multiple ways to open up the same hands over and over and over again. I also feel like it's something to think about whether you want to play Extravagance or Pot of Prosperity. I feel like Extravagance, just because I would like to have multiple cards, is correct, but that makes you change up your extra deck to play pretty much 3 of everything so you don't run out of anything. And then be able to pass off to your opponent, and then have the same thing. A Winda on the field, again, as I mentioned before, it is a floater. That is very, very important to understand. It is a floater. As far as the deck, I feel like you have to really take your time with the deck and see how it plays for you. This is the build that works for me. I'm not saying it's correct. I'm not saying everything is pristine. I feel like there's plenty that could be fixed. I would love to play Skill Drain somewhere in here. I love the Brain Research Lab and the Zephyra, and then you'd have to play Terraforming, obviously. But I also like cards like Imperial, cards like Macrocosmos. I like all of these cards because they all have something to offer into the deck. So if I were to take something, I'd probably take out Phantasme. The reason why I'm playing Phantasme is because I genuinely hate like bricking with this deck. So I tried to brick with this deck as little as possible, and it still can work and correspond with Shifter because, well, Phantasme is on the field most of the time, and it can help you open Shifter a little bit more often. It's just something that I've kind of been messing around with, and it's been working for me. However, you can pretty much fix it however in the world you want to. As far as the specific cards that you can or you may or may not play, I like the Zephyra card just because I feel like if I do play the Zephyra card, I would want to play Zephyra, but that's not necessary. The Petal Fin isn't necessary either, but I do kind of like having one because it's kind of a spot removal that nobody ever really pays attention to. And then Winda, obviously I already talked about that. The Wind Channeler I feel is a 3-of, but just because grabbing cards that are 1500 defense or lower, that's a lot of the cards in the deck. It's just something to think about, and it's something that I feel like you should automatically play 3 of because it's more copies, and you should maximize it as well on the emergency teleports. As far as the Foolish and Gold Sark, I already kind of talked about those and how they correspond with the other 2 cards. And then again, guys, I feel Extravagance is correct over Prosperity, but obviously that's up to you. I feel like you don't need to specifically dig 6 cards into your deck. You just need to get more cards into your hand, and being able to grab those 2 cards quickly. It's kind of the same philosophy as when I play Infernoids. I'd rather have the 2 cards, not to dig deeper in my deck. But if I needed to open up a certain starter, that's where I'd play Prosperity. So I feel like it's kind of a mixed match. You may want to play both. You may want to play Prosperity instead of one. You may want to play some other draw cards and then not play Extravagance at all, and then play like Upstart with Terraformings and Zephyra and Research Lab. You know, it's going to take you to mess around with the deck to know exactly what you want. And I also feel like Crossout would go somewhere in this deck. Maybe, but that's just me. Obviously, I don't think you can quite summon the card. Could correct me if I'm wrong, but it's getting into the extra deck. I just feel like, yeah, you just max out on playing like 3 of all of the cards that really matter. Maybe 2 of the big fusion, because I feel like if you can get to a penguin before losing the other one. But if you don't, then, you know, it is what it is. The Link is absolutely insane. And the last time that I really played it, or I saw it played in real life, this card didn't even exist. And then messing around with this deck, I really feel like this deck is phenomenal as far as Rogue is concerned. Guys, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. This deck is something to behold, something to pay attention to. I'm not going to say it's game shattering, but it's definitely a strong Rogue deck that is definitely improved by Emergency Teleport not being at 1 anymore. Not going to say it's earth shattering, but it's decent. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I'm out. YG, baby. I'm out. Ciao, Bella.